great comments that we have been listening to. But basically, building on two practical points raised by Frank and by Shriki as well, and the two Franks actually, because there are implications of what you said. But before you joined us, Shriki, we started well by Tatiana listing what we know, identifying the gaps, mentioning the issues about the business environment that you alluded to, and the issue of the pipeline of bankable investable projects is what really got us here all together. It's a journey that started with a conversation between myself and Mark Carney almost a couple of years ago based on the country platforms. And he has a list of 6 points for projects to be feasible and fundable by the private sector. And he knows the public sector and the private sector, and this kind of skills and backgrounds are not really found frequently. So I said, well, coming from the developing economy, there is a great deal of pipeline of bankable investable projects, but we need to showcase it. So perhaps after the work of 2 years, and that really got us into this unusual partnership, and like what you said, that there is a great deal of generosity. We talk about those who are not in the room. If you are public sector, as I was just yesterday, minister talking about, well, all of these gaps are going to be funded by the private sector. No single soul from the private sector will there. Then private sector meetings, as I was there day before yesterday, assuming that the government is going to be availing all of the incentives, regulatory structure, and paving the road to this happy life with investment. That doesn't happen. So with the Secretary General of UN, he or she, and that's why I got this bill. I know that some people are after it, but I'm protecting it. It's not one of the usual. But anyways, so I said, well, we have the convening power of the Regional Economic Commissions. Thank you so much for your leadership. And that led to discussions around the world. Started in Addis, went to Latin America, Middle East, UNECE, and in SCAP. And SCAP, out of the whole city, started, we met a DZE representative. And he got excited about the idea and said, well, let's do more on that. And then that got us back to UNECE, and we needed to protect this partnership because it has all of the global, regional, national, and local. When you are going to read, I hope, the assets to flows report, it's about projects with impact in different regions, sub-national level, and local level. So, and we have a pipeline. So for those who say that we don't have a pipeline of bankable and investable projects, we have 420 answers to that question. But if there is the supply of funds as announced in Glasgow to G-Fed, if there is that demand for these projects, what's missing? It's missing in the parts of what you said, regulatory structures and incentives, business environment, governance issues, matters related to capacity development at the last mile. And that's why I'm very much optimistic with your work with Mark. I'm very much interested to know more how these questions raised by the senior advisor to the president of Kazakhstan about issues related to greenwashing. And that's why we need to work really on 3 fronts. One is related to finance and partnership, public, private, domestic, and external, as implemented by that report, 2 reports actually. The one for the G20 by Larry Summers and Singh, and the other report by their assembly and external, telling us about the gaps and how to bridge them. Then the other thing is basically about technology and R&D and the incentives required in order to do more of that. The good project that I've seen, like in Africa from Morocco to Egypt, it's a mix of inventions and innovation. Started some of them in Europe. Thank you so much, Commissioner, for being here, and many European ministers are with us. And then adaptation to these technologies to the needs, as we have seen by the Moroccan and Egyptian engineers in the solar plants, public-private partnerships with a bit of risk-taking, and thanks to the EBRD, World Bank, and others in doing the investments, but investment at scale in production, and that was really answered by China in many cases when it comes to solar plants. When it comes to the intermittent supply of electricity, it has a technological solution that needs to have more investments in, and yet there are opportunities. Some of them are coming from the usual places in the US and Europe, but others are coming from developing economies and emerging markets. And the final thing is basically about incentives to do the right thing, and that would be the solutions to the following. Carbon markets. In this very seat of yours, Tatiana, the Executive Secretary of UNFCCC is saying that we are in the old Wild West when it comes to carbon markets, voluntary carbon markets in developing economies and emerging markets. So specific asks until we meet in a few months, I hope, and I'm looking to you for your leadership, because we don't need to miss the follow-up. And the answers to Suhad's question, what happened from Sharm el-Sheikh was answered in Dubai. Yes, we got the loss and damage because we had a dedicated transitional committee working 24/7 until we got into the operationalization of that fund of the loss and damage. The promise of the 30 billion by Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed here had been in the works for almost 18 months, even before Sharm el-Sheikh, and that really required hard work, and we tested the argument in Kenya for 4.5 billion. The work at the Green Climate Fund, I can tell you stories about the comedy, tragedy, and then the final triumph of reaching the, how much exactly? 12 billion and 475 million of promises for pledging for the replenishment of the fund. I like to thank many countries, including from Europe, in doing that. But what we need really is basically working on the pipeline of investable projects, getting into incentive structure, doing more of the toolkit and especially de-risking, the point mentioned earlier by Jorge and good work on the labs. Now there is something I would be really doing a favor to my folks in Africa, Arab countries, and many developing economies. Europe, you have the CBAM. US has IRA. Great for Europe, including actually the incentives through the green initiatives, and I'm mindful, of course, of the excellent initiatives mentioned by the Commissioner. But we have spillovers. If you are an investor in a developing economy today, you are not that competitive to those who are investing now in the US in the very typical project. Real case scenarios in green hydrogen, they are not as feasible. Last year we were discussing them in Sharm el-Sheikh, and they are today less feasible because of the subsidy. Good for the US, not necessarily good for them. CBAM, from a friend of Europe, worked hard in order to get the partnership with Europe as a junior advisor then to the Minister of the Economy almost 30 years ago in Egypt. I can tell you, CBAM has serious implications. We can't complain. We can't seek clarification as China did. We can, as I did as well with Ngozi, I'm asking her if it is compatible with WTO or not. That will have its contract. But I have two practical suggestions. These are basically about investment opportunities in the hard product sector. Aluminum, steel, fertilizers, cement, all of them are exporting to Europe. Can we have partnerships to invest in decarbonization? These sectors are owned mainly by private sector, and many of them are joint ventures between European and foreign and African investors, for instance. And the final thing is basically about carbon markets. If we fail to decarbonize fast, to meet the standards of CBAM, we need a carbon market. We have an initiative called ACME that resulted from our discussion to build up the pipeline of bankable investable projects. Two programs, ACME and the debt swaps. But let's focus on ACME. ACME requires, I don't speak on their behalf, one sponsors, as GFANS has put to the work. I'm chair of GFANS Africa. We are supporting them as climate champions. But I know, despite that of transaction, we will need the knowledge of Europe and the sophistication that Minister Clark mentioned. You are really sophisticated in some areas. You have comparative advantage. You help China building its own carbon market. Can we do the same for the African market? Here there are some specific asks for action that require this kind of partnership with investment opportunities. Not after aid, not after subsidy, not after gifts. Joint ventures, investment opportunities with decent returns commercially, but with huge impact for the climate action and the energy. This is basically that we can discuss, and I know that you have excellent throughout the UNECE, and we rely on you doing that. I congratulate this partnership, UNECE, DG Bank, and of course the rest of the UN system. And we like to see more of partnership with the EU going forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr.